Blue Moon. Howdy folks. There was a problem with Plasticity earlier this week, and I had sort of, did some griping or ranting about it. Anyway, working with a fellow whose name I don't really have the permission to say anything about him, but we'll just call him Mr. Skywalker. Through his help, we were able to achieve and solve the problems. Plasticity is still an ongoing situation. It looks to me like it's a very good program at a great price for doing CAD software drawings up for making modeling for 3D printing at a fabulous price, which is what I really liked about it, was the whole thing of why I was so focused on this. It had a few features that really attracted me, and there was a problem, and the problem kind of blew the whole software out of the water. So it's like, we fixed it. Yeah, let's find out what we did. Okay, there was a number of issues with Plasticity, so I want to explain, because I don't think it would be fair to the program to be negative about it or something. And I'm really excited about moving into Plasticity and be able to use it. If you're not familiar with it, it's like it kind of has a little bit of that Fusion 360 touch to it, because it has a nice grid to work with. You can scale the grid out to like 1mm squares like I do, and you can model from it and then 3D print. Well, that sounds great, but I was really concerned about a lot of things: quality of the modeling, that sort of thing, and how, ease of functions and tools and whatever in there. And I don't need a really sophisticated program like Blender or something, but I need, be able to create the models that I need for my clients. So we were having a problem with the roundness right here. This is some samples of different file formats that I sent over to the printer to see if there was any difference once we fixed the problem. It's getting this flat spotting thing going on here, which apparently, and I'll take you to the screen and I'll show it to you here, but what it was apparently I had to change my density setting to 1.0. Now, let's just stop, back up for a second. We're going to come backwards here for a minute. I had purchased Plasticity in early February, mid-February, whatever. Anyways, I guess about a week later or something, they came out with an update of 25.8.1 or something. I was on 24.1 or whatever. And this 24.1, when you change the density, you get a red flagged error code thing, and just, it wouldn't take it. And it didn't fix the flat spotting of the roundness here. So I kept having a problem with that. Now there was other problems, such as I had created a file such as something along, this is not really a good example, but something along the line of this sort of thing. And say I wanted to punch a hole here. I kept using Plasticity, trying to get the cylinder, punch the hole. I want to drive it through here. This is where I want the hole, and it wouldn't do it. So I was having terrible problems with it, and kept getting more and more disillusioned about the whole thing, thinking I spent $149, bought the indie license, and if I can't use this program, this has been a waste of money and a lot of time now, because I have been for months looking at Plasticity and thinking, I wonder if this will solve my problem, because I cannot afford thousands of dollars for, Fusion 360 as a subscription, which in itself, I am not a subscription person. I don't deal with Adobe. I use Affinity, which is a buy it now kind of program. I use DaVinci Resolve for my editing, because you buy the $299 studio license and you're good. You're done. You're good for life. So it was like, this is again a situation where it was like, I don't want to be paying subscriptions monthly for all this software I'm using and things. I'd rather buy something and just, that's it. I own it. And there was one other thing too that, and I'm gonna mention this because Blackmagic sells DaVinci Resolve, and it's a powerful editing program for video work. You don't need an internet to use it. So you can be remote somewhere and edit your video. You don't have to connect to an internet. And that alone, to me, as opposed to any of the other software that's out there, such as Adobe, Premiere Pro, and there's a lot of other, we'll just say there's a lot of other software out there that I can't even think of the names right now, because I had gone through a lot of them, trying them, and almost every one of them requires an internet connection or you can't edit your video. Like, nah. plus the subscription-based monthly was like, no, I'm not doing this. So this situation with Plasticity was the same idea. It's you buy it, it's in your computer, you don't need an internet connection, and you can work on CAD projects, which would be like, that's awesome. But how hard is it? Is it any good? Can it do the features and things I need? And I was stumbling around having a terrible time. So anyways, the flat spotting showed up on the round things. And it was just the changing of the density thing. Well, that was one thing. But what I did was near the end of February, Plasticity updated to 25.8.1, I believe it is. And there was a number of things in there I didn't like because one thing, they moved the toolbar, which was like, why? In my mind, there's no reason to move that thing. Leave it where it is. I know where it is. I can click on it where it is, but they added features. And I think also, I didn't hear a lot about it, but I guess they took out some bugs. Because once I tried again with the new update, I was able to take, something like this and have it modeled out and go, oh, I want to punch a hole here. Let's try it now. Hit the Q, there's the cylinder, bang, it's red, which indicates it's going to cut the material away and push it through and create the hole I wanted, which was like, yes, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So it's the new update that they did in February. Didn't meet with a lot of people screaming and yelling, but I think the new update was absolutely, it was like, yes, the program is not a little bit better, it's way better, Anyway, the other thing I did was, and some people had mentioned it, and I had thought it too, was this is an STL file, and it's round, it's perfectly round, it's got a nice finish, and this is with the 25.8.1 update, and you hit the density 1.0, there's no red flag, nothing, it takes it immediately, and saves the program to a file, so now you can send it over to a slicer. And my slicers, I think I got about 8 or 10, whatever it is, slicer software packages that are for different machines that I have in the shop here. So STL file, and I got it nice and round, but I ran it off anyways, and this is of course with the density 1.0 setting. Beautiful, perfect. It's good enough for all my clients and any modeling I'm doing. This is exactly what I want to see. So that was great, but I thought I would take it to another step. And again, this is a step file, and again, the ring is perfectly round. There's no flat spotting. There's nothing indicated. In fact, you can put it up on the shininess of the light here and look at the glow of it. And again, it's identical, in my opinion, to the STL. I don't see any difference at all. And I thought I would take it one step further, which kind of was interesting because this is, I think, the newest software when it comes to like CNC type thing is the 3MF. If you're familiar with that, Prusa seem to use that a lot, but this is 3MF. Now, I wrote the density on here just for the heck of it because when you use the 3MF file, the option for density never showed up that I can remember. It seems to me it didn't. It just went ahead and saved the file as a 3MF, but it did the same thing. It's a perfectly round circle right here, and again, nice and round. There's no flat spotting in the modeling. So that's what I wanted to see. But the bottom line is, and somebody mentioned it, when you do a software file like that, STL, whatever, when you're setting it to the slicer, and depending on the machine, your slicer may or may not be able to deal with 3MF. Now, or step file. Somebody had mentioned the step file and said, if your slicer can take it or something. I looked around and tried different slicers, and I really can't say that any particular slicer I have would refuse any of these files, or even the OBJ, which is the default for some reason with Plasticity. That's what it wants to save the file into your folder with, is the OBJ. And the OBJ is fine because apparently my slicers that I use, all of them were like, yeah, OBJ, okay, that's fine. But in OBJ was the same thing. You need to set the density to 1.0. And again, with the 25.8.1 update from Plasticity, it works fine. There's no red flag. Nothing stalls out. But the other thing that I was really almost as excited about this was the fact that when I hit the Q now, I can create a cutting tool and cut something through a model. Now, granted, if I was doing this and I knew that hole was going to be there or something, I would have put that on there, say before I extruded or something. If you ever dealt with FreeCAD, for example, a lot of times the whole situation, the modeling, you sort of have to put that in before. It's very hard to come back afterwards, and it's very, very hard to get it within a millimeter accuracy on FreeCAD to get it exactly where you want at that point. You have to really, you can do it, but there's a lot of steps involved in screwing around, whatever. On the very first thing that attracted me to Plasticity was it has a grid like Fusion 360. So you've got a nice square grid with a center, I guess we'll call it a reference or center area where the X and the Y, you know, or the X, Y, Z, whatever, all comes together, and you go, there's what I want. I'm going to work from the top, and I'm going to do my drawing. Very important, because this is going to, you know, help you to know what you're doing when you're modeling. Otherwise, you can get really messed up really badly. There also was a problem with orbiting the model. That's where we take a model, we have X, we have, you know, maybe Y, and you might have Z or something like this. Well, what happened with Plasticity that I was running into was I was unable to turn the model this way to orbit, and just have a look at the angle, that sort of thing, and say, okay, this is where I need to get through. It wasn't doing it. Now, that could be a number of reasons, but anyways, with 25.8.1, I can hit the shift bar, use the center mouse button, and I can orbit the model into a different angle to take a look at something, and at the same time still go ahead and make my cut. You know, and again, bravo, fabulous, because that is part of the problem. So let's just go to the Plasticity screen for a second, and I'll just show you what we're talking about. All right, here we're on the Plasticity screen. This is a model that I was working on last week, and what we're going to do now is we're going to export the model. This is how to get these features round, and you're going to see what happens as soon as I decide to export it. But as soon as I go to export it, and we're going to say OBJ, no, let's do STL, because this is going to be really obvious what's going on. And you see all these little triangles right here, and that is where all that flat spotting is coming from. So now if you go down here to that left bottom corner, you'll see the word density, and you'll see it's 0.50. So what you want to do is 1.0 like that, and then you'll hit OK. I don't know how well you can see that. Maybe I should change the angle here of the camera a little bit, but we'll just go down here to the bottom, take a good look at it. There it is, and you can see it. And now when I change that density and say OK, that is now going to save that model, but it's going to save it with so that it's nice and round. And you see how it sort of for a second there flashed on the screen with really tiny lines, because now all the little triangles, which is what is part of, you know, drawing up in CAD to converting to G-code and things, that is, you know, much better, much smoother model, much rounder. Yeah, so you saw it right there. Yeah, just change that density setting and bang, you know, you'll have nice round rings or rounded corners without flat spotting. The biggest, probably the biggest thing that really attracted me to Plasticity, the very first thing, was the grid. I set that grid pattern to 1 millimeter squares because that's what I like to work with. And sometimes I'll even get on the screen with the computer and a pencil or something and sit there and count the squares to make sure that the hole or whatever it is I'm cutting is exactly where I want it. My big complaint is Fusion 360, their grid pattern is horrible. It's very hard to see, it's very hard to count out little squares and things. And the other problem I have with Fusion 360 is if you zoom in, the squares actually change scale, and I don't like that. I don't want that, you know. I like to have the 1 millimeter grid scale at all times to work with for this type of modeling. So the Plasticity actually, like I said before last week, there are certain features in Plasticity that I actually are, to me, for my needs, are better than Fusion 360, which is like, you know, wow. Now, since the new update, I can now honestly say, yes, you know, if you're thinking about switching over, you might be a lot more comfortable now than last year or even early February, like when I switched over and thought, okay, we're going to try using this CAD software and see if we can create the products we need using it, and I had been unable to do it for a couple of, a little over a month and a half or whatever. So we're getting close to being able to use Plasticity for production needs. In fact, I've got a new product on there right now that I'm working with and modifying it using Plasticity. And when it gets done, it should be another one of those great products that we'll be able to sell online, and it'll move well. I'm sorry about 3D printers running right now, even because we're behind, like always. We're making up some inventory that we need right now for stock, because I hit 0 this morning on some of my inventory. It was like, well, we better make some more stuff up and get it ready for shipping, because orders will come through. They just do. The other thing that happened the last month was finally Bamboo released the H2D, I think it was, machine. So far, there is nothing that Bamboo Lab makes or does that would be useful in my situation. And I was really looking at this new one and thinking, maybe this might be the machine that I'll want to buy or something. And I can tell you off the bat, as soon as I saw the build plate size, it was like, and it went even further down when they had 2 extruders tied together on the machine, and you lose a little bit of that build plate. They don't tell you that, but you do. You actually lose a little of your build plate on that because you have 2. Yeah, so if you're only running one color and you want a certain size of build plate, it's going to be a problem. The build plate, I believe, was 325 by 250 by whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not even square, so it was like, it's crazy. 350 by 350 would be getting close to what I could use, but what totally just blows that out of the water, I can run, I've got product running right now on the Cobra 2 Max, $150 machine apparently, because I bought a repair job from Anycubic that out of California. They shipped me the, you fix it, kind of machine. And I did. I fixed it. We've been running it ever since. And it's doing a fantastic job. But it can run 3 of these jobs in one go, where the Bamboo Lab machine would only be able to run 1. Yeah, and only certain size ones. It can't run the largest of my products. It won't even fit on that silly build plate again. I don't know what to tell you other than Bamboo Labs still does not make a machine that I can use for my production needs. Yeah, they don't do it, so I'm stuck with bed slingers. I don't even like bed slingers, but I have to buy them because they'll produce what I need. So yeah, that's kind of I was extremely disappointed with the machine. Couple of things. It has so many features that it would be very hard to troubleshoot if you did have a problem. And I was looking at that dual extrusion setup they've got going on there, and I thought, if my filament jams in there, that could be an interesting nightmare. The price of the machine is way above what I expected or anticipated for the price. It's like, whoa, I think it's right around $1,800. You may as well say about $2,000 for the basic machine. It was like, there's just no, for what it can do, for the capacity and the features and everything, it was like, doesn't do me any good, and the price is too high. So Bamboo Lab, you still didn't do it for me anyways. I have, I think, more faith in the possibility of maybe buying a Cheaty or something for to get away from bed slinging or something. I don't know who's going to make one next, but I'm sort of hoping that the community, Creality and everybody else, does not follow this trend that Bamboo Labs just set right now, because it's expensive, it's full of cameras and a lot of go-go gear that's like, we used to have a name for it. It's got a lot of places where it could glitch. It's got a lot of things that are like, if this thing goes wrong, we're going to have problems, and the service department is going to be, miserable to have to deal with to try to fix something if something does happen. But also, it doesn't offer the size that I need for a build plate, so that's sort of like, rub that out. Let's wrap this up. The whole thing I wanted to express today was I think that Plasticity is coming along really well. I'm still looking forward to, of course, more updates in the future that might make Plasticity work just that much better. Right now, I'm really surprised. This update they did in February was, like I said, it was underscored. It was it was really, to me, for me anyways, it was a major update that really made the software worth owning. Yeah, wow. So anyways, thank you for watching Coffee and Tools, and please like, share, subscribe, ring the notice bell. We'll be back next week, I'm sure, with more stuff. I don't know what we're gonna get into, but whatever hits the fan and spreads all over the wall and sticks to it, that's probably what that'll be our topic. Yeah. Over and out.